We're ready to move ahead now with the removal of the reverse unit and the weight. First thing I'm going to do is take this tape off right here, which is nothing more than assisting in holding all the cables in that slot on top of the weight. Just take it off. I can replace it later. I think it is a good idea to have it on there. And then I'll go beneath the chassis. For those of you that have requested it, show more details. I'll be disengaging that screw right there, the single 230B screw that holds the reverse unit on. Now the reverse unit is held further on by some tabs right here that have a bend in them. So just be patient, wiggle it back and forth, and you'll get those out eventually. You might want to reposition the reverse lock lever to get the maximum movement between, the maximum movement such that these can be slid furthest back. So that's pretty easy to do. Next thing is, I'm going to get the weight off. It is held by a single screw right here in top of the weight, right there. Once that's off, I can get the weight off. I'm going to work on the reverse unit first, then the motor, but the weight will be off. And then of course when I work with the motor, I'll be able to slide the ribbon cable hopefully forward and down the opening above the motor, get more distance so I can work on the motor. When I work on the reverse unit, following the best practices that I learned from a master restorer of American Flyer trains, get the reverse unit right because it impacts the entire train. If it has a problem, the whole train will have a problem. When I say train, I mean the locomotive. I'm going to be inspecting, although I've given a cursory inspection, for holes in these fingers, both on the top and the bottom. Note that the top fingers are offset. The bottom fingers are centered. Got this a little bit too magnified. Let me turn it down a little bit right here on the bottom fingers. First thing I'm going to do is take a medium-sized set of needle nose pliers and bend these tabs on these fingerboards. Now keep in mind that these fingerboards can be delicate, that when you turn the tab it can put pressure on the fingerboard. So you don't want to overdo it, and you want to try to make note of the direction that they're already bent in. There's no reason to put more stress on these and more fractures in the metal that might risk the tab falling off. If the tab falls off, you have to go get a whole new chassis or shell or chassis for the reverse unit. I want to straighten those out such that I can eventually lift the fingerboard up. And sometimes I use my hands to lift it up like this and just pull on it up. Other times I will use a smaller set of needle nose pliers and place one of the needles of the pliers on top of the tab and the other one underneath. But I never put a lot of stress on it because if these are exceptionally dirty with oil, grease, carbon dust, anything like that, it can soften this particle board that the fingers are mounted on. So just be real careful. Get those off, and then we're well on our way then to separating the frame of the reverse unit so that we can get to the drum. Following the removal of the reverse unit, I disassembled it and cleaned it. Once I took the screw out and freed it from the tabs right here that are on the bottom that connect into the truck, all I did was take my snap ring pliers, and any spreader tool will work, put it between the sides of the reverse unit frame and pressed gently until it pressed far enough that the drum fell out. The drum definitely needed cleaning. It had a lot of black carbon dust on the brass bands. But I did the usual cleaning, alcohol followed by alcohol wipe, and then polishing the bands with a soft rotary tool brush. I also checked all the fingers, such as these, polished them on the bottom of the cup, apart and thought about readjusting these because they were the ones right here are cupped a little bit differently than these, but if it worked before, I don't see why it wouldn't work again. But none of them have holes, and they all are very stable, except for this one right here kind of concerns me, that's connected to this red wire, because it has a phenomenon I've seen before. It can cause issues, but there's no easy way to adjust it other than replace the fingerboard, and that is the rivet that holds the finger on is loose on the fingerboard, which allows the finger to pivot on that rivet, and which means it could get misaligned. Excuse me. But I'm going to take a chance on that. The one thing that surprised me is that this wire that goes to the bulb socket had to be removed because it is so short. If I hadn't removed it, I literally could not take the reverse unit, move it forward, and get it out of the way. Once I get it reassembled, I'm not going to test it. I'm simply going to set it back on the chassis right about here, and then use it to feed this ribbon wire down through so that I can drop the motor out and have much better access. So let me reassemble it real quick. My methodology of reinserting the drum is simply to take one end, and this one I chose to be the end away from the gear, although it really doesn't matter, put it back into the hole where the spindle or axle goes. Then push down on the gear end just a little bit to get it in there snugly so it stays by itself. Hold it in this position so that it drops, it will drop in, and then gently spread the sides of the frame of the reverse unit until the drum inches back down and the other side of the axle or spindle pops through the opening. Next, I'm going to reconnect the bottom fingerboard. Now this will give me an opportunity to retension the fingers, but notice that this one right here is slightly twisted. Now I don't know when that happened. Doesn't really make any difference, but I'm going to twist it just a little bit because it is potentially going to only make contact along this far edge over here because it's twisted. And I have found that that can cause problems with these reverse units. So I'm just going to take my smaller needle nose pliers, twist it gently, and then retension it. After twisting that finger that's in the background just a little bit to make it more in alignment with the other finger, I simply press down on both of them at the same time to retension them. And then after retensioning, I simply put it back into place on the two tabs. Now I have not tightened the tabs yet. I'm simply going to follow the same sequence, twisting one of these fingers if it needs to be, and reposition it. Here, the top fingers were retensioned, again by twisting them, pushing downward on the fingers toward the drum, and then repositioned it in the tabs on the back. Now, I'm not going to tighten it until I'm ready really to do all of them, and I don't see any reason why I couldn't now, although I will give it just a cursory movement test by using the lever right here, pressing down and just watching the movement. Looks good. Now at this point I have not re-lubricated anything on the drum or the reverse unit. I will exclusively use CRC 226 to lightly coat, while I have such good access, especially up in this direction, to lightly coat the entire drum with CRC 226 and then lubricate points like this where there's friction on the drum axle or spindle with the frame. And look for anything else like this. I'll also lubricate the gear and the pawl. I didn't really talk too much about the pawl, but I did clean it and polish it right here. But I'll make sure it's lubricated with CRC 226.